Hello, welcome to Solo Voice, a podcast series designed to help you master change within. Millions of people around the world are now awakening to the fact that changes in your life begins with changes in you. In Solo Voice, I share with you my experiences, thoughts and ideas that I have formed from my experience of helping people from all walks of life. So today, as you listen to this podcast, you may discover something that might help you make a real change in your life. In this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about conversational programming. What is it? How it can be useful to you? How you can learn it? And what is the mindset necessary for you to be a master of conversational programming? First off, the word conversational programming, to the best of my knowledge, is something that I coined. I coined it as a response to someone asking me, Antonio, what are you doing? I thought for a moment and I thought, shall I explain something very complex and describe the details of it, or shall I give something short and sweet that is nice to hear, which the person might have an appreciation for? So I coined the term conversational programming just to describe a process that I was doing in terms of making powerful change in the person I was interacting with. So a long time ago, there was this genius by the name of Milton Erickson. He was a medical doctor who had extraordinary skills. There would be people from all walks of life who would go to him for a variety of different things. And Milton would tell them stories. And as he is telling them stories, something powerful would happen. The person would change internally. And the best thing is that the person doesn't know they're changing. But Milton would tell them a story and would ask them to come back and visit him again. And when the person visits Milton again, magically something has shifted. They don't seem to have the same problems that they met Milton for. Now, this could be somebody who's trying to get over a simple problem, or it could be somebody who's really at the top of their career, trying to get on to the next level. Milton always had a story that made a powerful change in them. Over the years, two extremely talented men, Dr. John Grinder and Dr. Richard Bandler, spent some time with Milton Erickson to find out what he is doing. And they coded to the best possible at that moment a set of patterns and techniques that would allow anyone to learn and replicate whatever Milton Erickson was doing and to get similar results. They officially named this the Milton model, and then they added some patternings on top of that, and they later called it neuro-linguistic programming. Today, neuro-linguistic programming is used all around the world for a variety of purposes, including personal change, self-help, business, growth, coaching, and a whole lot of things. However, the foundation remains that the basis and the most important blocks for neuro-linguistic programming started from this concept of being able to, in your communication, communicate both to the conscious and the unconscious. And also at the same time, be able to make subtle statements that make a powerful change in the person that you're talking to. And the name I have coined for all of this is conversational programming. So in short, conversational programming means two individuals are talking with each other, and a person who's an expert in conversational programming is able to use language and stories as a means of making a powerful change in the other person without explicitly letting them know consciously that there is a change that is being made. That's a very powerful tool. So far, we have seen that this works, and it works very well. Now, a lot of people who are novices to this field, especially people with who think of all of this as conversational hypnosis, or people who think of this as manipulation of some sort, tend to focus their attention on what to say. I mean, what do you say? What is the structure? What's the magic syntax through which we can talk to their unconscious? Well, the real secret is, it's not about what you say. It's about what is missing. That's the key. Now, a long time ago, Richard Bandler made this claim that NLP and all the variety of techniques that is produced are just overflow of the technology of gathering information precisely. And in my opinion, that is exactly what conversational programming is as well. This is what conversational programming means, that you're able to gather more information about the person you're talking to than they themselves know. That's right. If I'm talking to Alex, I propose that I know more about Alex than Alex consciously knows about himself. This puts me in a position of advantage. As a third person, I'm not emotionally attached to that map or those details. And I'm able to look at very, very valuable information coming from multiple senses, like the look in their eyes, the way they're breathing, the change in skin color, the response, the dance, the internal rhythm to an ongoing communication. And I'm able to precisely map what could be the current thought patterns inside this person. And I'm able to map what will be the thought process that will allow them to get what they want. And as soon as I have this information, now I'm in a position of power. I know something more beyond what this person themselves know about themselves. Which means now all I have to do is do whatever is necessary to make that tiny little shift from the current thought process to move them into their desired thought process. And the Milton model that is coded in NLP is just one of the tools of making that possible. And that is available on the internet. Anybody can Google Milton model and get a whole literature on how to do that. There are what is NLP called as metaphors, which are ways and techniques of how to construct stories that will allow you to pace somebody's ongoing thought process and make a shift in the story so that it matches the desired thought process and a way for you to make the change in the other person. But most importantly, and the more critical skill is that if you do not have a clue about what is going on internally with that person, then there is no chance of any conversational programming at all. Let me give you some examples of this. There are three people. There's Ganesh, there is Rajiv, and there is Mukesh. Now, Ganesh, Rajesh, and Mukesh are all three people who are not doing well in their job. So the external behavior here is Rajesh, Ganesh, and Mukesh are not performing. For the purpose of conversational programming, that information is not good enough. So you are a master conversational programmer and you're having a conversation with them, and somewhere in the language, without their own awareness, Mukesh drops in a comment that the job that he's doing is worthless. It is small and tiny. Now what you have managed to do is you've gathered more information. And mind you, this may not be consciously available to Mukesh as well. So you've got a very valuable piece of information that Mukesh doesn't know. And if you're trained on watching non-verbals, then you know exactly what words to pay attention to and what words to ignore. Again, non-verbals here go beyond the scope of, are you folding the hands, are you leaning forward, to something more subtle, to something more definitive, to things like the breathing, the micro expressions, and so on. And more importantly, the sequence of these movements and the sequence of these micro expressions, rather than a set of fixed diagrams or elements that you're by hearting. So based on all these skills, now you figured out that Mukesh believes that his work that he's doing is tiny and it's not significant. Now, you can use the Milton model. You can use the metaphors to change that perspective, internal way of thinking about his job for Mukesh. So this is what conversational programming means. It means that you have this superior ability to watch people and from very casual conversations, figure out what is going on internally inside of them. And you also know what could be a new way of thinking that would change everything for them. And once you have that, then it's just a matter of using the right tools and the right techniques to make that shift. So how can conversation apply? People ask me, can you do conversational programming in a casual chat about a movie over dinner? Absolutely. You can talk only about the movie that you both saw together and yet be changing the thought process in the person who is listening to you. Some people ask me, well, can you use this to make someone do what they don't want to do? Well, yes and no. With any technology, be it atomic or nuclear physics or whatever technology there is on Earth, the internet, for example, there is always a potential to use it for the good and for the bad. Having said that, one has to be extremely skillful to do bad than to do good, because the mind, the brain, the human being's unconscious is very protective. So even if you are very skilled and you're planting in suggestions that are not useful for the person, what would happen is the person would regress back to their old behavior, unless of course you can make them feel as if it is good for them. But I think that is very difficult. Especially in the form that I am proposing here, when your attitude is to go look at what is the current map and what is the desired map, in that flow of thoughts, it's very difficult to harm somebody. In fact, it requires extreme amount of skills to be able to do that. And so most people don't have to worry about can they do something wrong in conversational programming. But this is what people have to be worried about, that illiteracy is the major cause for doing damaging work with conversational programming. Let's face it, whether you know conversational programming or not, you are doing conversational programming when somebody who's vulnerable to your influence is in your presence. Every gesture you make, every blink of an eye is a communication and deep programming. If someone is going to come and ask you, can I really do that? And that moment, in that microsecond, if you are not showing a congruent yes, you have already done hypnosis. You already planted a belief. So a lot of times, a lot of harmful effects of people I have met, these could be artists who couldn't draw for a long time, or these could be people who couldn't learn a specific skill, or these could be people who are having a lousy life, seem to have had what people refer as post-hypnotic effects sometime in their age when they were young. And these were given by people who are well-intentioned, who care for them, because they didn't know what they were doing was programming their mind. So I would propose that conversational programming and learning conversational programming is not only very effective in your communication to help people have new ways of thinking, but it's also very protective in the sense you would stop yourself from accidentally harming the people around you who you care about. There was this great research done on how sometimes when people have fatal terminal diseases, the communication by the doctor can mean a whole world of difference in terms of how long they live. So this book documented that when somebody had cancer, and when the same fact was presented in a specific way, it resulted in the person living longer, the average life of the people who lived it longer, than if the message was presented differently. So that's an example of conversational programming right there. Now, if it's so powerful, then there is no excuse to not learn what the impacts and effects of it are. Wait for me for the next podcast.